Timmy, you want to do the intro? Hello, when you do the intro.
No,
Hello
it's
and
your day.
welcome to the Turn 4 podcast. I am your host, Dan Maldonado. If this is your first time listening, welcome. If you're a regular listener, welcome back. This podcast comes from two lifelong fans of IndyCar and motorsports. We are not insiders, but occasionally we do play them, right? We do play insiders.
We do.
Before we get started, let me introduce you to my co-host, Tim Reiner. Hey, Timmy.
Hello, Dan.
How are you?
I'm really good this evening. How are you?
I'm good.
Good.
Hey, I of course thank you for your flexibility. It is much later than we normally do this recording of the podcast, but of course I had baby girl's commencement exercises today. Graduation, high school graduation commencements.
Awesome.
3 of 3 kids through high school. Outstanding.
That is great news.
Yep, 3 of 3 kids. So
is that why you're dressed so dapper today?
That's why I'm dressed up. Yeah, our school colors are purple, so this is I have a lavender shirt, and then we had to be out on the football field, so it is linen. So, you know, but with the changing weather conditions, I wasn't sure what to take. So I'm wearing a long sleeve, but it is a long sleeve linen shirt. So
looks really nice.
It's all wrinkled. Everything you can't see except
I can see it from here. It is a little wrinkled, but that's okay.
That's linen.
That would lead me to believe it is linen, which it is. And linens, I don't have a linen shirt. I might need to go get me one.
You can have this one.
I have linen pants, you know.
You like do?
Yeah, like the when you go to the beach and you wear sandals and you go to a nice occasion on the beach, you have linen pants. Yeah, I've got a couple pairs of those.
Love it.
They're really nice.
I wish I knew this sooner. I love it.
Yeah.
What do you wear with it? A t-shirt? Might have linen pants and not a linen
No,
top.
a dress shirt, but not a linen. I just never had a linen one. Like a nice button down, short sleeve.
Yeah, there you go.
That's what you wear with it.
It's perfect.
Yeah. Totally.
Perfect. Love it.
Everything went well?
Everything went well.
Good.
Everything went very well.
Good.
So just very happy. Nice weekend of motorsports this past weekend, Timmy. 24 hours of Le Mans, the Baku Grand Prix at Azerbaijan. I like to just say that. And of course, the Grand Prix at Road America, which we will review in detail here in just a minute.
Yep.
Tim, I didn't have a lot of chance to, in fact, I had no chance to watch any of the 24 hours of Le Mans. Did you get a chance to take a look at it?
I didn't watch any of it. I don't even know what network it was on. Do you?
No. I don't either. As a matter of fact, yeah. No. That's a lie. I think I saw it on Motor Trend TV.
Motor Trend
I think
TV.
I saw it in the guide. Yeah. So I don't know if that's something that everybody has with their package or not, or if it's a select package. So there you have it. So
I don't feel the 24 hours of Le Mans is that really popular here in the US that people are trying to tune in. I didn't see a single advertisement for it. And if I would have, I might have tuned in, but it was kind of a busy weekend. So I didn't get a chance to watch that at all.
Yeah. We knew it was coming because we were at Detroit and Sebastian Bourdais was going off to Le Mans. So we knew that. And we do a podcast on motorsports. So we knew that 24 hours of Le Mans was happening. What I do know about the 24 hours of Le Mans is that Toyota managed their 5th win in a row at Le Mans. And you know what this means, Tim?
No, enlighten us.
This means it's time for a new challenge, and it's time for Toyota to come to IndyCar. So just come on down.
So you were trying to convince them because we heard from some folks at Honda that Toyota, it most likely wasn't coming.
No, I didn't hear that from the guy at Honda, but I heard, that was the one that I threw out there. He didn't tell us no. He didn't tell us he didn't hear that. So, but I would say,
I think I heard it's very much unlikely just because they'd already need to be doing stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. At this point, they're well along, Honda and Chevy.
Yeah. It'd be great to see Toyota come along.
So, but you do have some notes on Le Mans. So good job. Do you want to give our listeners?
Yeah, I'll just run through a couple of the other class winners just so in case people didn't get a chance to watch it like you and I. It's always good to know what's going on in motorsports overall. And in LMP2, Jota, I'm going to say it. I'm going to pronounce it Jota. I don't know if that's how it's pronounced or not.
You do, Tim. It's your show.
It's Jota wins in dominating fashion in the LMP2. Their first class win since 2017, and their second entry was third overall on the podium, which Ed Jones. We all know Ed Jones, right?
We all know Ed Jones, yeah.
He was in that second entry, so he was part of that team overall. But they won, and like they said, in dominating fashion. So from my understanding, they had a lap lead at one time on everybody, and then came through with the win. So that was big for them. in LMP2, Penske earned a top 5 finish. So that was good to see. And as you noted, that concludes their LMP2 outing, is my understanding. So they'll be wrapping that up. But good for the Penske folks there. And then Porsche wins the GTE Pro Series by beating the favorites, Corvette Racing, which, their headquarters is right down the road from us. And those Corvettes had a double retirement. So I think they were dominating in practice as well as qualifying. Looked like they were going to tear that GTE Pro Series apart, and ended up retirement on both of those cars. And then lastly, Aston wins GTE AM division with TF Sports. That's what I have.
Yeah. Good job by everybody.
Yeah.
Interesting though, Corvette struggled the way they did out there because they were heavily favorites. We saw them, of course, 24 Hours at Daytona, pretty much the same situation, right? But they were dominating at Daytona. So kind of a shame to go all that way and not see the checkered flag. So kind of a drag.
I did read it was the 90th running of the 24 Hours of Le Mans. So
there you go.
90 years that's been going on.
That's pretty cool. That's a big number.
A long time.
Yeah. And I love right, the press release says Penske finishes with a top 5 finish. Well, they finished 5th. So great job on the wordsmithing on that one. Right. Everything that I read said the same thing, right? Penske finishes with a top 5 finish. And it's like, well, they finished 5th. Right?
Yeah. That's a top 5 finish, right?
It is.
They want you to read a little further in to really figure out where they actually finished. That's all.
5th. Formula One. Got a little to talk about here to set this thing up, because if you're a frequent listener of this podcast, you know that I have called this year's Ferrari, the best car and the best engine up and down the paddock this season. Well, that's obviously the words of an overzealous fan.
I know, and I never believed you.
I know you didn't.
I was like, there's no way, but you were adamant, and that was the story, and that's what you were going with.
Yes,
but
I was willing it to happen.
Yes, but I think here at Baku, we kind of see what happened to them.
Yeah. So the wheels haven't necessarily fallen off of it for the Ferrari team, but there's a decided wobble here. And neither factory Ferrari finished, robbing Charles Leclerc of I think, not a certain win, but a very good shot at a win there. And in fact, this is 4 poles in a row for Leclerc that he's been unable to convert to a win.
Wow.
And the last time that happened, Tim, was a good friend of yours, 2002, Juan Pablo Montoya. 4 poles, no win.
Are these 4 poles like in
a row?
In succession?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. I wish this was my genius, but this is what Crofty said on the broadcast, so I'm just lifting it straight up, and I'm going to give him a little credit for it. So this double failure at Ferrari continues to hold Sainz back. Carlos Sainz's season really has not gotten going here. He's had one issue after another, either self-imposed or something beyond his controls. Total failure here for Charles Leclerc, hydraulics issue for Carlos, and then you've got some Ferrari affiliated teams that were not immune to some of the situations happening here. Zhou Guanyu at the Alfa Romeo team, as well as Kevin Magnussen at Haas, both suffered engine-related issues and had to retire from the race. This is not great, Tim. This is not great at all.
No, doesn't look good for Ferrari. And as I thought all season long, is that the Red Bulls were right there. They had a few hiccups early in the season, but they've come on strong. But it seems like the Ferrari still has pace, right? It's got a lot of pace because they've had a lot of pulls and things of that sort. But if you can't get the reliability down, then you're going to be in trouble for sure. So
to finish first, one must first finish.
That is correct.
Yeah,
that is very correct. And so Red Bull seems to almost have a stranglehold on this series and going into, the next race and so on and so forth, which I believe is Canada.
It is. And it's immediately following this race. It's Canada is this coming weekend, the 19th, if I'm doing that math correctly in my head. So they're going to run out. So really, if you're Ferrari, you got to feel kind of a little uneasy leaving Baku with broken cars and then heading straight out to Canada. So you really don't have an opportunity to get in front of this and understand what the issue here is. This puts Ferrari 80 points behind Red Bull in the Constructors' Championship, by the way.
Wow.
80 points.
That's a long ways back.
Long ways back. And Mercedes might be getting it together, but they're by the time Mercedes gets anything together, if they get it together this season, they're not going to have anything.
Yeah, and George seems to be outdueling his Lewis Hamilton at every single event. So yeah, that's they do seem to be getting it together, like you mentioned, and they look fairly strong. But if both Ferraris hold on, I don't know where that puts Mercedes. I think they're off the podium then at that point.
Yeah. And McLaren, the same thing, right? If they get it together, you never know. Verstappen with the victory, 5th on the year, 2nd place for Sergio Perez. George Russell, as you mentioned, he finishes 3rd. Honorable mention to Lewis Hamilton, finishing 4th. He is battered and bruised based on how this car is bouncing off of the tarmac as it's going down the road. He
was complaining about his back, right?
Yep. And this is beyond porpoising. This is ride height as low as they can run it, and the car actually making contact with the road. And then, that frequency that happens, and then the shock wave that happens up through the body. I cannot imagine what that must feel like.
Yeah, it can't be good, but you would think they would have the right seat and padding to sort of, get rid of a lot of that, so it wouldn't be so bad for the driver. Was George complaining just as much as Lewis? Because I know
George has talked about it. He just talked about it a little bit differently. George is on the Grand Prix Association board, so he's talked about the level of bouncing is unsustainable, and the FIA and Formula One need to look at something to do for these drivers, who are certainly going to have some physiological problems with this thing if it continues on. So is it posturing because they're trying to get some relief and they're trying to get some help? Because let's face it, you're not hearing that out of Red Bull and you're not hearing it out of Ferrari either. So, they're trying to get some relief out of that because let's face it, they're way behind. And I believe Christian Horner said something today saying that he would be coaching his guys to, cry and complain about it as loudly as they could. So is some of it posturing? Maybe, but the camera is pretty clear and you can hear the onboard. That car is bouncing off the ground just at an alarming rate.
So do you think it's the rules, or you think it's just Mercedes and how
I think it's Mercedes in an ill handling car doing what they have to do to try to be somewhat competitive. And this is what they have to do to be somewhat competitive.
Yeah, it almost sounds like a desperation move, in my opinion, where you're setting the car up where it's so uncomfortable for your drivers, or you're coaching your drivers to say it's uncomfortable. So there's some rule changes that benefits the Mercedes team.
Yeah. You have some thoughts on Formula One this weekend?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that I took away from this weekend's event, and I had a chance to watch it, and it was somewhat exciting. The gaps between first, second, third, fourth were really big. I was really surprised. I guess I shouldn't be surprised to have 15-second deltas between each finishing position, which was, anticlimactic for an IndyCar fan to watch that and go, wow, this is really exciting and things are going on. All right. Because I think the biggest lead that we had in the IndyCar race was 6 seconds. So when you get into the 15s and things of that sort, it kind of, I guess my concentration or my ability to sit and watch the whole thing sort of wanes a little bit. The other thing I noticed is team orders. They were driving me nuts in the race, and maybe it's just me, but
who specifically?
There were two. I think, at the end of the race, it was McLaren. Hey, don't battle, just follow, in the position you're in. So working with Ricardo as well as Lando, and even earlier in the race when they told Ricardo to let Lando by, but it seemed to all work out at the end.
They switched them.
And then the other piece of that would be Red Bull, right? So on the Red Bull side, there was team orders to let Verstappen by. Don't fight, let him by. And
I see what you're saying on the McLaren side, and I would agree with you there. That's just an odd situation. On the Red Bull side, I see it a little bit differently, only because there was nothing for Perez to gain there by fighting his own teammate. and we'll talk about that in the Ganassi section when we get to the Road America. But
Yeah.
Max was faster, and could Checo have held him up? Sure, but at some point
Yeah.
he was faster, so he was going to pass him. So why risk anything? There's no
Yeah.
reason to.
And at the time the order was given to let him
Mhm.
by, I didn't think he was faster. I thought it was more of a play of Verstappen's number one on the team chart, so you need to let him by. But at the end
Yeah.
of the day, when you look at the gaps, he was clearly faster. And I saw an article today that Perez had said that the no fighting, quote unquote, was the right call.
Mhm.
And that's just not to fight his teammate for that position. But I don't know. I prefer to have the drivers race with each other and the call be just don't wreck each other, right?
Yeah.
That's the biggest call. But I know it's bigger than that, and yeah, I guess from the looking at the time charts and the sectors and everything else that goes on, they could tell who was fastest and who was on the right tires and things of that sort. So
Right.
that's just the way it is. And I guess lastly, I was happy to see at least they're duct taping some of these cars and sending them back out.
Is that not absurd? It's $100 million budget, right?
I
They're
know.
$100+ million budget. They're duct taping the rear wing
Of
on
the AlphaTauri. Yep.
on the AlphaTauri. And let's not forget, right? We're talking about Red Bull running away from Ferrari, who is having trouble keeping their car in one piece. But that rear wing problem has plagued Red Bull,
Yeah.
the top team, as well. So
Well, yeah.
I
Did you hear the
I
orders
don't know
that came
what
out?
they're doing there. No, I don't know
The
what
orders
they're
came
doing there.
out with 4 or 5 laps to go to Max. They said do not use
Oh, right. Yep.
DRS. Yeah.
Yep, I did. Yep, I remember that.
So they were still concerned about issues with that rear wing. I haven't figured it out
Yeah.
completely.
Yeah, it was Sonoda's wing. They had to bring it in tape. He was
Yeah.
like, "What's going on?" He had no idea what was going on back there.
Yeah, half of it was open, the
Yeah.
other half was closed. It was bent and sagging, and I'm like, that thing's just going to come apart. If that comes apart on that track, you got to be,
He's going for a
prepared.
ride.
Yeah, you're going for a really big
he's going
ride.
for a ride. So
And I think the other notable thing, I don't have it written down, but the other notable thing was McLaren. They were the slowest down the straight of any team at in Baku. So
draggy.
that front straight is forever.
Yep.
And they just didn't have the pace.
Do you know who the fastest was?
Do I know who? Was it Ferrari?
Alpine.
It was Alpine?
Yeah.
Wow. No, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So they got it going on right there, but there's still some other things in that car that's just holding them back from being, fighting at the top of the midfield, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So it's not drivers.
Yeah.
But, interesting. So on to Road America. One of my absolute favorite tracks. It is a bucket list. We talked about it last week. Couldn't justify 4 weeks in a row. Plus, a lot of personal things going on this weekend, so it wasn't going to happen this year.
It's not that far from us, really.
It's really not.
Kind of looked it up a little bit. It's just like an hour north of Milwaukee.
Yeah, it's really not. Yeah.
Yeah.
I drive to Chicago all the time, so it's just a little further on from there.
Yeah.
So, but Team Penske gets this win. Tim, this team's got it together this year. They really do. They've won 5 of 8 this season. This is 3 wins for Josef Newgarden. Power and McLaughlin both have wins this season. While I will say that, to me, Will continues to be my championship favorite if that champion is going to come from this team, and I believe it will. This is Will's worst finish on the year. Prior to Road America, Will has 2 finishes outside the top 4. That's 15th at Indy and 19th here. And this 19th place was not for any reason that Will caused on his own. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. Newgarden, on the other hand, I'm talking about patient power also being consistent power. Newgarden, on the other hand, has finishes of 16th, first, 14th, 25th, 13th, 4th, and 1st. So it's a bit of a roller coaster for Josef Newgarden, where Will's been a little bit more consistent. And that's the reason why I say I think Will has the upper hand here. But nonetheless, I mean, great win for Josef Newgarden taking first place here. He was fast. He was fast all weekend. I don't believe for a second that Alexander Rossi had anything for him. I don't think that Rossi was going to catch him with or without the yellow. And then even after the yellow, I don't think Rossi still did not have anything for Josef Newgarden. In fact, Rossi yielded that position to that second place to Ericsson.
Yeah, he did on that the last restart on yellow.
Yep.
He got past. He was trying to obviously get around Newgarden, but messed up coming out of the last turn in order to take the front stretch there to take the green flag. But on the Newgarden side, his pit crew got him out front. And after that, it was kind of lights out. He had a commanding lead and grew that, as I mentioned, to 6 seconds. So that was good it was, I guess it shows you how well that car was handling, as well as, the power that was coming from the Chevy power plant.
And I think it was a good strategy by that team too, because they knew that Rossi was fast on primary tires. He was super fast in qualifying on primary tires. So I think that they were a little bit concerned that once Rossi got off of the reds onto the primaries, that he was going to be a significant challenge to Josef Newgarden. So I think what they were doing was they were coaching Josef to use a lot of that push to pass to help build that gap. Just like you always say, right? A 6 second gap in Indy cars, from first to second is not common.
Not lately.
Yeah. So using a lot of that push to pass, Josef was able to get to that gap.
And in that final stint, though, Rossi was able to bring it down to about 3.2 seconds. So he was a little quick there, and they were both on the primary tires. And as you mentioned, Rossi was real fast on primary and took the pole on primary, which was crazy to see it if there was any way. But the handling did get away from the Andretti team for a little bit, and then they seemed to gather it back up. I don't know. I would have loved to see it go green to see if he would have caught him, but I think to your point, Newgarden might have been taking a little bit easy at the end there, and might have been saving some of the push to pass to the very end, and would have kept that lead. But
saving a little push to pass, saving a little tires, in the event that he needed to defend.
Yeah.
Seventh place for Scott McLaughlin. Like I said, nice finish here. He needed it. There's some crash damage in his immediate past here, so it is good to see that he was able to get to the finish. He's fallen quite a bit since that first win of the season. He's now 10th in the championship standings, so he needs to get it back onto a clean path. Patient Power unfortunately finishes 9th, and Patient Power gave way to Pissed Off Power after he was punted by Devlin DeFrancesco on lap 8. I got 2 questions for you, Timmy. First, how do you see Devlin punting Will off the track, effectively ruining his day? Was that just hard racing, or was that a mistake?
It was hard racing. It was hard racing, and I think it was a mistake by Devlin to try to go on the inside, but it looked like, and if you back up, I think it all started in turn 3 when Power did some blocking on Devlin, which got Devlin probably a little amped up for the next corner to say, I'm faster than you, I'm going to go by you. And going into 5, which I believe was the corner that had happened, it looked like Devlin was going to go to the outside, and Power kind of shifted a little bit, and then Devlin went right to the inside, and there really wasn't room for a whole car to get in that spot. And he punted Power, as you mentioned, and it's just a young driver trying to take a little too much and work a little too hard and find a way. But I think at the same time, Power blocked him in turn 3. So you got to make sure you're clear of these guys and that you're not making some rookies pretty angry, because stuff like this can happen. We've seen it in the past.
Yeah, I think you've got to be careful when you're racing the rookies, right? And especially rookies that have no significant finish to date and really haven't proven anything. Haven't really given anybody any reason to real cheer there. So.
Yeah, and I'm sure the message to rookies is be careful around some of the past champions and things of that sort. But at the same time, do you really want to tiptoe around them? You've got to at some point show that
want to beat. Yeah,
those are the guys you want to go shoulder to shoulder with and have good, clean competition. But at this point, it was kind of a hip check there on the left side of Power's car, and off he went into the wall.
Yeah. So it starts with qualifying, right? If you're not back there, your odds are better that you're not going to have something like this happen, because then you're racing for guys that are trying to prove something. So,
there's Power started 15th.
Yeah. Did he block him in 3? I don't know. Devlin said he did. Nobody else said he did. I'm not saying he didn't, but did he block him? I'm sure somebody like Will Power knows how to block somebody within the rules. But nonetheless, racing incident, yeah, I might be willing to buy that. Hey, what about the hip check at the end there, the post-race cool down where Power came up and just knocked on the door?
But let's,
are you okay with that?
Before we get to that, so Power started 15th, Devlin started 21st. Devlin must have been on charge moving forward for them to really be in contact at that time to make that happen, because it wasn't too far into the race for that incident to really take place. Ask me the question again.
What do you want me to ask?
The hip check, the end of the
he punted. Oh, the hip check at the end.
Yeah.
Are you okay with that? Because Twitter, like you have the people on Twitter that say, well, Will Power should be suspended for a race for doing that. There's no reason. It's inappropriate.
I'm on the side of those guys that are whining like that. That is not appropriate at all. You cannot take your car and use it as a weapon after the race.
Who cares?
You can't do it. It should be
he just brushed him hard.
It should be a penalty. It was after the race. You're using your car to run into somebody else. In my opinion, it should be a penalty, and the steward should look at that, and he should. I'm going to go have a 5-grid penalty for starting and in the next race. You can't use your car and run into somebody like that. You're totally. Where do you stand on this? You're
where totally I stand on it. I'm fine with it. You let him know where he was at.
No, I think and I'm going to get.
Would you rather them get out of the cars with their helmets on and go push each other around?
Yes. You can't
That's dumb. That is so dumb.
You can't use a 1,500-pound vehicle and
sure you can, because he's in a 1,500-pound car. He's not like he's hitting him outside the car.
No.
Right? It's not like Devlin was walking down pit road and Will went up to him and bumped him with the wheel. He hit a car on car. No harm, no foul.
I don't like it. It comes to, and this might not be a popular opinion, but to me, it comes down to bullying someone who's younger and trying to, do something in the series and be positive. And yeah, he made a mistake, but at the end of the day, the veteran and what's that?
He never owned it.
Well, that's a different story, right? If you're not owning it, but I don't know how you know that at the time that the race just got over and you're bumping the other driver. Right. If he comes up afterwards and says, "Hey, man, I didn't mean to do it. It was a mistake on my part," then
Devlin could always radio back to his team, and Penske would have heard it and maybe would have relayed it to him, just like Marcus did to his team.
Yeah.
So, nonetheless, Will's lucky to have only dropped a second in the championship, because Palou and O'Ward both had really bad days. Speaking of Ganassi, Tim, I think there's something going on there. I can't help but get someone's leaving. So there might be some jockeying going on here for the survivors. Problem is, I can't say who's leaving because I don't know, obviously, not an insider, but it's hard to tell. Why do I say this? Dixon calling out the team at the Indy GP. Ericsson calling out Dixon for slowing up his qualifying run at Detroit. And then this weekend, Palou calling out his teammate here for what really was a bonehead move by Palou. I know what the notes say by both, but really when you take another look at it, it's really a bonehead move by Palou. To be racing your teammate that hard, that early in the race, and Marcus clearly had the corner.
Yeah,
clearly
totally
had the corner. And there's plenty of runoff there. That's that turn 5 again, right?
It is turn 5. Yeah.
So plenty of runoff there where Palou could have driven aggressively, smart, come around that corner with his teammate, and would have carried on to probably a top 5 finish.
Absolutely. It might have got Ericsson later in the race, right?
Yeah.
It's one of those things. It's early.
So I'm going to turn it over to you, but the last thing I'm going to say here is this is the same rationale I'm using when I said last year that it was clear that Simon Pagenaud was the odd man out at Penske. Because he was getting bumped, bruised, and pushed aside everywhere.
Yeah.
Last year by his own teammates.
Mm-hmm.
So something I believe is going on at Ganassi.
Which is interesting. Yeah, which is interesting because I hadn't put all that together and thought that there was something else deeper going on in the team. And those drivers were really looking at who's going to be here next year and who's not going to be there. I thought overall, the team was very solid with who they have. When you have Ericsson winning the Indy 500, that sort of solidifies in my mind that he'll be there next year. I've always been thinking that Jimmy's done after this season, and that if he does come back, it could be for just an Indy 500. I don't know if Chip has taken notice to what Penske's doing, and I'm going out on a limb myself to say, hey, we downsized from 4 cars to 3 cars, and it allowed us to be a little more cohesive in what we're doing, and the engineers aren't, overstretched in trying to set up cars. So I don't know if they're downsizing and if that's going to be a trend here in IndyCar for those teams that are above 4 or above cars, and 3 is sort of the right sizing. So I don't know if that's happening. But to your point, now that you mention it and you put all those different scenarios together, something really is going on at Chip Ganassi Racing, and we're not going to see all those drivers back. There's going to be some changes that will happen there. And I know this gets into silly season, which happens all year round now. But I like your theory, and I think there's something going on here. And I don't like Palou calling out his teammate. That's just the wrong thing to do.
Me neither. Yeah.
I've never seen him do that, but he's never really been in that predicament before. So I don't want to say it's his true colors, because I'm not really sure. His true colors to me are
a nice kid.
Yeah, very nice kid, very respectful, and goes about his business. But I agree, it wasn't Ericsson's fault by any means. He had an opportunity to go down the inside. He had the position. Palou didn't leave him enough room, and they bumped. And typically when they bump like that, there's really there's no harm, right? The cars keep going, but they broke the front suspension.
And here's further proof of that, right? It was Palou's front suspension against the rear right tire of Ericsson's car.
That tells you something right there.
It was well ahead.
And Ericsson was on the inside. So that was his spot to take. It was early in the race, but when you have an opportunity in IndyCar, you need to take it, because those opportunities don't come very often, because the cars are so competitively matched and the drivers are so good. You've got to take it when you can get it. And I commend Ericsson for doing that and getting where he was and taking advantage of it. So kudos to him. And again, Palou should have never called out his teammate.
Totally agree. Ericsson, second place. He did apologize on the radio and in the post race,
which I hated.
Right. But that's taking the high road. And that, I think that ticks people off even more when you do that. Sometimes when you take the high road, hey, I apologize. I'm sorry. That's a teammate. I hate to see that kind of stuff happen. And that's good. Good for him for doing that. Did he need to? Not necessarily, but it was nice that he did it.
Well, I think it just overshadowed his second place finish, and I don't like that at all.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I understand what you're saying. Dixon ninth, seemed to struggle with the balance, but a very Dixon-like manner, finishes with what the car offered him. And yesterday the car was offering him ninth place. Jimmy Johnson, 24th, spun early when Tatiana Calderon drifted into him on lap 1. Palou, 27th. Alex Palou has 3 finishes of 27th or worse in his 3-year career in IndyCar. 27th place yesterday, 27th at the Fall Indy Road Course last year, and that was an engine failure, and 28th at the 500 in 2020. Otherwise, super consistent and very careful with the equipment. So I expect him to rebound from this. The break is going to be definitely good for everybody. Tim.
He's going to shrug that off and go on to Mid-Ohio and do well. I don't see any issues there.
Yeah, 3 weeks off is going to help everybody here.
So speaking of Jimmy Johnson, I just want to touch on this because did you watch the race live or did you watch it recorded?
No, I watched it live.
You did watch it live. So I had it recorded. I didn't watch to the evening just because I had things going on Sunday. And for whatever reason, I don't know if it's NBC or if it's Xfinity, which is my provider. My recording started at lap 2. So I didn't see the start. I didn't see the incident with Jimmy Johnson and Tatiana. So I was going to try and go back and find it, but I didn't have a chance to do that. But
they mistimed the pre-race. Because
and the pre-race for me did not record for whatever reason. So
I don't know but I watched it live. Okay. And it's funny that you say that because as they were doing all this, I'm thinking we're still in the pre-race block.
And they started
This
the
isn't even
race?
the race block yet. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they mistimed the pre-race, and I believe that's why you
Yeah,
caught up on lap
it
2.
was lap 2, and it was a
Yep.
caution, and they had Jimmy Johnson on it, and I was like,
Yeah.
okay, something happened with Jimmy. And they were talking about the gravel. I didn't see the incident, but gravel and potential issues with gravel being in the car and messing with the accelerator and the brake. But anyways, just note to NBC that the if you time that correctly, we'd be able to see it on our recordings.
Yeah. Andretti, some in the water here, Tim, because it seems like this team is on an uptick, right? And that uptick is being led by the guy who's leaving at the end of this season.
Yeah, totally. Must be, for me, from what I understand, they're no longer overthinking the setup and the effects that the aero screen has on setup. So what I heard, and probably you heard the same thing, is that they're reverted back to the pre-aero screen setups, and it's working.
Is that not bizarre to you, that the whole notion of this, like somebody was just sitting in the shop one day and said, hey, did we ever try like a pre-aero screen setup?
Yeah, I think that would be your baseline anyways,
Right?
going
Wouldn't
into
it
any
be? Why
race.
wasn't it?
I don't know.
Yeah.
But I'm sure they've got these
Very, very learned engineering staffs that come to them with baseline setups suggesting the car's dynamic is X now because of this aero screen. So you need to go Y direction with this setup. I'm certain of it, right? And those people make a lot of money and they are in very high demand. So, but
yeah.
even then.
And if anybody from RLL picked up on what Andretti did to sort of switch things around, they better start looking at it, because I think it could be that simple. You just
15, and that
overthought
was
it.
a totally different car. That was the manufacturer aero kits,
But if you think about it, if you're plugging numbers into a computer to go with a setup, right? And the computer is going, oh, based on the weight and where it's all distributed now, you need to do X, Y, and Z. And so they took that and ran with it. Just didn't seem to work. And so they said, you know what, let's just go back to 2019. And that's what they did. And
and it's
been working.
Alexander Rossi to life. 3rd place here at Road America after a 2nd place in Detroit. I do believe something went off on the balance of this car toward the end of that stint, toward the end of that race. Like I said, I don't believe he had anything that was going to allow him to catch Josef Newgarden. And in fact, he, with the yellow flags and how that ended up sorting out at the end there, he did slip back to 3rd place, yielding that second to Marcus Ericsson, who was also very quick. So 2 weeks in a row, Alexander Rossi chasing down a Penske for the win. A little more successful last week, a little less so this week. The difference between this and last, of course, was the yellow flags.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't, however, believe that this is going to be the last we hear from Alexander Rossi. I think he's going to definitely be a spoiler through the rest of the season. 2 wins, right? Is what you're calling it. 2 wins. 2 wins are nothing.
No. And I thought this weekend was it for sure. When he qualified on pole, I'm like, this is going to be the first of 2, but it didn't happen.
Yeah. I truly believe the team has found something that's working. And here's another example. Roman Grosjean, 4th place. Good day for Roman. He needed this too. He needed this finish. He has a lot of crash damage to his name this year. And this 4th place was a terrific result for this team. I like the way he mentioned a couple of times that he had used his teammates' setup. I did like that. And I think that's great. I think that's the right thing to do. I did suck all the air out of the room, though, when Grosjean was coming out of the pits just ahead of a, hard charging Alexander Rossi, because I was horrified the idea that they were going to come together at the end of that front straight going into turn 1. So, but not
they didn't. They lined up. They came out as they should. They hold the whole teammate cordialness in order to make sure that nothing happened on pit road. And you don't want to end your day there.
Yep.
Nobody wants to do that.
5th place goes to Colton Herta. Great finish for Colton. He needed this too, right? After his win at Indy GP, the crash at Carb Day at Indy, then he DNFs at the 500, and then it's just been a roller coaster for him. I also like the way he snaps at his dad a little bit when his
Oh
dad
my
keeps
goodness.
continuing to give him the same information lap after lap. I don't know if Brian just can't help himself. Like, he's got to say something, like it's just like a nervous tick or something.
Mm-hmm.
But and that's a couple of times we've heard that this season already. So I do like that. That makes me giggle. I don't know that I would choose to be my son's strategist, though. Would you?
No, I wouldn't choose to do
Would you
that.
want your dad in the pit box
No,
calling your
telling me what to
strategy?
do. He tells us what to do all our lives, right? You want
Right.
him to tell him what to do when you're driving an Indy car down the
I
road?
don't
I
think I
don't think
want that
so.
either. Yeah. I
I think
don't think
I'd
I'd
be
want
like,
that
no,
either.
give me someone else. But
I think Graham Rahal, right? The Rahals sort of learned that years ago, was that it was a
yeah,
good idea to
totally.
get Bobby out of there. Yeah.
Hmm. Even the Andretti's with Marco in the car and Michael calling, the shots at
Yeah, because
times.
he would
So
snap back at Michael a little harder than Colton does to Brian.
yeah, it was on the fuel numbers. He's like,
Yeah.
you got to hit 96, and
Yeah.
he's like, you
It's
told
like,
me
Dad,
this
I
for
know
the
the
what?
number.
I know
Yeah.
the number. Like, come on now. The
Yeah.
last time he snapped at him that I recall was at Long Beach.
Hmm.
And I don't recall the exact incident, but
Same
Marco was in
thing.
the
I
box
know I
laughing,
know the
and
strategy. Yeah.
yeah, like
Yeah.
I know what I'm doing. It was almost a
Yeah.
Kimi Räikkönen
I
thing, right?
love
I
it.
know what I'm doing. Leave me alone.
I love it. Arrow McLaren, sixth place for Felix Rosenquist, 26th place for Pato Award. Both Felix and Pato were in the mix most of the day. That is until that what was later deemed an electrical issue sideline award, not an engine issue. Felix is driving for an extension, and I'd say he's doing what he needs to do to get that done here. However, I feel like it might be little little too late because I am convinced now more than ever that a
Yeah.
change is going to happen at Ganassi, and I think one of those guys are going to wind up here in that third car.
Yeah, I think so too. I think
So,
Rosenquist days are short-lived at Arrow McLaren. But yeah, the whole engine electrical thing, that kind of drives me nuts too. And I don't know why I'm like crazy about it, but of course the manufacturer doesn't want to have an engine blown, and they
right.
don't want it to say that the engine blew. But I remember the days of smoke coming out of the back of the Indy cars, and we saw it with Ferrari. You couldn't blame
There
anything
was
but the
no
engine
hiding
on
that.
that when you have blue
Yeah.
smoke coming out of the back of it. But if it was electrical, I guess you want to correct it and say it was electrical. But that was surprising to see for Pato, and obviously he was the other championship guy. So as you mentioned, those three, Power, Pato, as well as Pelot, all those folks had issues, which didn't doesn't hurt as bad when everybody has issues and you're not that far out of the points. But I thought Arrow was going to have a much better day, and they didn't.
Yeah. Salvaged it what they could with
Yep,
Felix,
exactly.
of all people, right? Tim, I think this is the earliest we've gone to this next team. This is Rahal, Letterman, Lanigan. Do my eyes deceive me? Right? Our listeners are surely tired of hearing me say, just in this episode alone, this team or driver needed this finish. But man, if any team and any drivers needed a good finish, it was the folks at Rahal, Letterman, Lanigan.
Mhm.
Let's hope Detroit was rock bottom for this team and they found a way to pull it together. Um, Tim, did you see the Marshall Pruitt article that was Graham featured talking about they were a little thin in the engineering department?
I did see that,
Yeah.
and it was
You buying it?
no, I don't. No, I'm not buying it. Not at all.
I don't know that I'm buying it either. I mean, maybe that team did grow a little too fast, but here's what I go back to before I tend to believe that. They were a two-car team last year, and they were an
Hmm.
occasional three-car team last year.
Hmm.
So you know, we're not privy to everything that goes on with the personnel decisions at these teams, but I don't recall hearing of any high-profile engineering departures at Ray Holliman and
Mm.
Lanigan last year. So
And the
I don't really
Rahals
know.
seem like people that would have everything lined up before they go out on a limb and add a third car for
You'd
a full
think,
season. Like they've got all
yeah,
their ducks in a row and say, this is how we're going to make it happen.
and they have resources, so it's not like
Yeah,
they're scraping it together, right? They're not looking
exactly.
for part time. I don't know if it's an excuse. It does seem to me like they have trouble keeping up with the pace of development elsewhere on the grid. Is what it looks like to me, at least. Perhaps that's what Graham was pinpointing in his article with Marshall, is that they
Yeah.
have the engineering talent in place to put three cars on the grid, but they don't have the engineering talent in place to research and develop.
Yeah.
Do
you think
to gain that edge?
Do you think they could potentially be overthinking it? Just going back to the Andretti thing, because that
quite possible.
They've been way off though. They have not even been close. So
No.
I don't know if it's an overthink thing, or you had mentioned their computers and models are all screwed up and they need to just scrap them and start over.
Right? Yeah.
Maybe they need to go to.
It's funny, that was in the Marshall Pruitt article, by the way, that some of the R&D wasn't translating to.
Yeah, I did read that. I was like, that's so funny, because we talked about it on the show.
Yeah.
So they had decent finishes. You're gonna go through the finishes, but
yeah, Graham 8th, right? Yeah. Christian Lundgaard 10th, and Jack Harvey 13th. And I'm qualifying Jack's finish because I like Jack. So ties his best finish of the season with 3 13th place finishes.
Yeah, that's good finishes, but you got to start further up. And again, a great improvement from Detroit, where they were just way off and totally off. But I think, if you go to the next team isn't overthinking their setup. They're just going out and doing it.
Isn't it unbelievable how Juncos continues to just overachieve what they are as the team, right? The smallest team on the grid. Juncos one car effort besting the finishes of Shank, Ed Carpenter Racing, Coyne, and Foyt.
It's amazing.
One car effort driven by a guy who was sidelined last week with a broken hand, right?
Mm-hmm.
So no better way to assert himself back in that seat. 11th place.
Yeah, a much better showing than what they had in Detroit. Detroit, they were in the 20s all weekend long, the low 20s. So it was good to see a little bit of a rebound from that, almost a top 10 finish, right?
Yeah.
Eilert right off of his hand issue. So is Eilert that good? Is the whole team just gelling? Like they make it happen. I'm super proud of that team.
Me too. My new favorite team. You know that.
Yep.
Shank, Simon Pagenaud 12th, Elio Castroneves 22nd. Tim, I dearly hope we can find a break in this schedule so we can do another silly season episode like we did last year. But until we can, I do want to say this about Felix Rosenquist. I think he would be a nice fit here. And I think he would be a nice fit here in the number 06, the 06 car. I'm not trying to send Elio away, and I know how incredibly popular he is. And I am a huge Elio Castroneves fan. I want to say that. But at some point, we have to talk about the 4-time Indy champs record turning left and right. Right?
Mm-hmm.
He's 17th in the championship standings behind Lundgaard and Rahal. Let that sink in for a second. Right?
Yeah, that doesn't look
Simon is 10th. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think Felix would be a nice addition here. That team's got it going on. That team does well. Engineering support by Andretti. In a lot of races, they've outperformed the Andretti team. But I like.
Yeah, I don't think Felix is going to go to Meyer-Shank. I don't think there's any way.
To Formula E with McLaren.
Yeah, I think he's going to do that because McLaren said they had a seat, unless he wants to stay in IndyCar and doesn't want to do the Formula E and sees an opportunity here. It'd be a good pickup by Meyer-Shank folks, but I think here with Castroneves, you got to look at it's age, right? This is a young man's sport. You cannot be as old as he is.
He's our age.
I know, and you can't hustle the car around. It's been shown time and time again that you just can't do it. There are a few that made it happen. Mario Andretti drove till he was 56. Was still winning. The latter part, he wasn't winning that much, but up until in his 40s, he was still pretty dominating and pretty good. So I agree. There's going to be some changes, I think, on this team, but you bring him back for a one-off on Indy 500. Is that?
I think you just continue to give him the next couple of Indy 500s. As long as he wants to be here, maybe the next one at least. But that's how I see it. So,
yep.
Ed Carpenter Racing, another very.
I want to talk about Simon though.
Okay.
Sorry, I know you're trying to move on, but going off at in the kink, right? That was 150
mile an hour off roading. Boom, 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 boom.
Yeah, and that's a place you don't want to go off. I've seen some accidents in the past there that have been really horrific.
Yeah.
And
Catherine Legg,
cars,
right? Really?
yeah, the
That car's just,
car. Yeah, I think in that situation, the rear wings fell off of the car, and
is that what that was?
yeah, it was a rear wing that came off, and then you're off in the grass, and she was rolling through the grass, but somehow he held on to it, kept it off the wall, and continued. But that's a scary ride.
It is.
And here's the thing that I think for the average viewer that doesn't get is you can't tell how fast these cars are going, but as soon as you get off, you can totally. It's almost
See
like
that?
they accelerate 700
Yeah.
times over what they were running on the track, because it just doesn't really translate. So
it looks fast on the track. It looks even faster bouncing in the grass.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm glad that didn't turn out bad, and he was able to save it and came up with a 12th place finish.
Yeah, good for Simon. I like where Simon is in this team.
So you mentioned to me he doesn't look good in a hat, and I finally saw that this weekend when they interviewed him with the ball cap on.
Thoughts?
Just doesn't work, right?
No. Neither one of them. I don't think. Yeah, I don't think either one of them look right in hats. It's so weird that they got.
Yeah, it is bizarre. They have such nice hair and,
yes.
and nicely shaped heads. You put a hat on them, and it just goes sideways.
Yeah, it's so weird.
Yeah.
Ed Carpenter, like I said, flat. Just 14th for Daly, 17th for VK. Another flat effort, I guess. That follows up a 12th and the 16th from Detroit. Now they have Peretta Autosport team to be in partnership with.
Yep.
Simona finished 21st. I know you don't believe in any moral victories, but I'm just going to say this. She finished ahead of Elio, Dalton Kellett, Jimmy Johnson, and Tatiana Calderon, all listed as running. So to me, this isn't awful. It's not awful for somebody who hasn't been on an IndyCar or been in an IndyCar on a road course in 7 years?
Yeah, I think it's a great performance.
Good for her.
It's a total moral victory for them. And I think it's even probably more than they expected coming out and running at the race here at Road America. But I'm glad to see Simona back in the car. I'm glad to see Peretta back in the sport. I'm glad ECR had the opportunity to do that, and they stepped up and did it. And they even talked about one of the race engineers and how she's going to school and all that. So it is really based around women getting into the sport and having an opportunity to run a team. And I hope they're super successful in the other two outings that they have, and that we see them next year in a full-time run.
Yeah, I agree. I'm with you there. Coyne, weird day for Coyne. Not sure what the expectation was, but frankly, I do expect a little bit more out of this team. We've seen them have decent runs this season. Bright spot, of course, was Indy, I guess. But Sato finishing 15th, Malukas finishing 16th. AJ Foyt racing, flat for Foyt this weekend. They've shown some moments where they've shown some moments of ability.
You mentioned Kirkwood was good in Detroit, but he hit the wall. Very good in
Detroit. Yeah, hit the wall.
Yeah, otherwise he would have been in top 10 for sure. But he was higher up than that. He was in like 5th or something.
Yep. Standard bearer is Kirkwood, and he started 24th, finishing 20th. Kellett 23rd, Calderon 25th. So really just kind of a flat.
It goes back to culture. That's what I heard when I was in Detroit.
Yep. So you got some notes here about the stories we were watching.
Yeah, we had some stories to watch, and one of them was, can Penske and Chevy keep their run going? And the answer is absolutely yes. Yeah, totally. With Newgarden taking the win and showing that pretty dominant fashion there after he took the lead. And the crew, like I mentioned earlier, got him in front, which was, great effort by the crew and everybody else. And then is Rossi rejuvenated after his future is settled? And to me, it sure seems like it is, like 2nd and a 3rd. So a 2nd in Detroit, a 3rd here at Road America, which should have been a 2nd, but the yellows caught him up, and on a restart, he got passed by Marcus Ericsson. Yeah.
Rejuvenated for sure.
Yeah, totally. And then is Ganassi ready to take it to Chevy? It doesn't seem like it. Team dynamics seem odd at this stage in the season.
I totally
never expected it out of that team, and it just seems funky.
And that team was rolling right at Indianapolis, so you would think they would be living on that high, and they have crashed after that high at Indianapolis.
Yeah, I think there were too many heartbreaks during the race. You have You have Pelot getting caught out on the yellow at Indy, right?
Yep.
And then you have Dixon blowing the line, going over the speed. And maybe that just took the wind out of those two guys' sails for a little bit and just caused a stir with the dynamics. And then you had Jimmy hitting the wall. So I don't think anybody thought, as we spoke about going in Indy, that Marcus was going to win it, but he did it. And then the other story we were watching was Arrow. Could they be back on the podium? Nope. They did not make that happen, which was crazy. And they've been on the podium twice this year, only twice. Is that?
It's kind of unusual. I think that's strange.
I would think so. And that's a win at Alabama with Pato, and then second at Indy with Pato. So
second best Chevy team on the grid.
Yeah, what you would expect them to be, I would think, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So those were the stories.
Yep. Great job. Mid-Ohio is next in 3 weeks, actually. So we're not exactly halfway through the season, but I think it's a good time to review our respective championship picks, don't you? How about we just take a look at the top 5?
Let's take a look at them.
Yeah. So actual leader after Road America is Marcus Ericsson. Tim, you have Herta, who's 11th. I also have Herta, who's 11th.
Mm-hmm.
Second place is Will Power. You have Josef Newgarden, who's actually 3rd. So good job by you. I've got Grosjean, who's actually 12th. Actual 3rd place is Newgarden. You have Dixon in 3rd. Dixon is 6th place. I have Pelot in 3rd. Awards 4th. You've got Rossi, who's actually in 7th, and he's coming hard. I've got Rahal, who's nowhere to be found. I don't know why I've got 4 in the notes, because that's surely not right. It's probably 14 or 24. But Pelot is 5th. You have him 5th. So good job by you.
Look at that. I'm right on with
Look
Pelot.
at that. You're right on. And then Dixon in 6th. So, but let us know, to the listeners, let us know who you think is going to take this championship, and how people are going to settle out through the rest of the season. Give us your top 5. Tweet us at the Turn 4 Podcast 1 Twitter handle. Let us know who you think is going to be the top 5 at the end of the season. Taking a look at how people have done this mid-year. Let us know how you think.
Graham's in 15th. Just so you know. We can fix the notes. I can type them right now. I got the notes up. I'm going to put it right in the notes.
Tim, do you have a pick for Mid-Ohio? Race winner?
Dan, I want to know if you have a race winner. I want to know if you have one first. And I know it's pretty much impossible to predict these, but if you go with a Penske driver, you may get lucky. So I want to know who you have.
I'm not, actually. I'm going to go with Alex Pelot.
You're going with Pelot. So he's going to rebound from the devastation that happened this past weekend and go from there.
Yes.
I don't have a Penske driver either. I've got
from the devastation.
It was devastation. It was devastating. He doesn't have incidences like that. So
he doesn't. It's devastating.
It was devastating. It was devastation.
Yep.
I've got I got the guy that's going to win 2 races this year. I've got
Alexander Michael Rossi. Look at you.
Yes. So I got Rossi. We are both going to be wrong because we know a Penske car is going to win it. We just don't want to say it.
What
if you had to choose a Penske car, which one are you picking?
Patient Power, Will Power. Number 12, Verizon.
Can't stop Newgarden. You got Newgarden winning again.
He's either going to win or finish 24th. He's got Colton Herta syndrome from last year.
You went through his results. I don't know if they were that bad, but I think you got.
What do you mean you don't know if they were that bad? They're bad.
I don't think they're that bad.
Really
they weren't as bad as Herta's.
They're bad.
Love it. So I love Mid-Ohio. We've been there several times. It's a great course. I'm sure the fans are going to come out. Are you checking the notes to see where?
They were bad. He was bad.
Hold on. We got a minute here. 16th, 1st, 14th, 25th, 13th, 4th, 1st.
Yeah, and Will's like 3, 4, 4, 3, 4, win, 5, 15, and 19.
Yeah, I'll take some of those bad finishes if I'm getting first 3 times this, far into the season. So I think Newgarden's got it. I think Patient Power is going to be patient. He's going to finish, in his top 4, but I think Newgarden's
He's
going
got
to make
3
it
wins on the
happen.
season. He's 3rd in the championship, behind someone that has behind 2 guys that have 1 win each.
He's not far behind though. He's 5 points behind Will Power,
who has 1 win.
I know, it speaks to the consistency that Will has had.
Yes. Consistency wins. Ask Scott Dixon.
It does. You're absolutely right. It does happen, and it does make that. So Newgarden was 13th at Indy. Is that right? Based on me counting back the numbers?
Sure.
Huh. Interesting. I don't know. Rossi's got it, I guess, but we'll see what happens with Team Penske if they can continue this run.
Pillow's going to rebound from the devastation.
So we got 3 weeks to the next race. This is the biggest break in a little while.
It is. It's nice. So we'll be back with a preview of Mid-Ohio prior to that race on that Monday prior to that race. And then we'll, of course, do the race review after that. We'll try to fit in some, a silly season here and there. But Tim, it's our anniversary.
It is. I went back and looked at our first episode.
Did you listen to it?
I wanted to see when it was actually published. So I want to see if it was a year to the date, which it's not. The actual date is June 21st. But our pilot episode was Road America last year. And this is a long time ago. We've come a long ways. Yeah. We've grown a lot. We've had some great guests on. We've gained access to some races through media credentials and things of that sort. Upgraded our equipment. We've done a lot of different things, and I think we've gotten this down pretty good. I'm excited to see what year 2 brings. And by the time we get to Mid-Ohio, we will be in year 2 of our podcast here. So this is episode, what number? 34?
Mm-hmm. Good job, Tim. Congratulations.
Yeah, same to you. It wouldn't be possible without the listeners, right? And some sponsors, right?
We've been able to find some people who have enjoyed our show enough to throw us some things. Yeah. We may actually have somebody throwing us something else very, very soon.
Yeah.
Stay tuned.
Excited about that. That's going to be a good one.
I think that'll be fun.
Yeah. Right. The first one was the bike riser guys. So yeah. Which your bike is back there. Mine is actually not back here today.
It's in the garage.
So,
well, thank you to the listeners. Thanks for listening to us on this review of Road America. Look forward to the break, believe it or not. And, we'll be back at it talking to you about Mid-Ohio here in just a couple of weeks. So thanks for listening, and tell your friends and engage with us on social media. Let us know who you think is going to be your top 5 for this championship through the balance of the year. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.